Woohoo! We are here. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. We are here for a studio demo. Round of applause. Thank you so much. So, Studio Demo is a broadcast hub featuring New Ink's wider creative community, where conversations, demonstrations, and creative exchanges happen live. So get ready for that. Our first panel of the day, Architecting an Image, brings celebrity makeup artist Marcelo Gutierrez and executive digital director of Harper's Bazaar, Lynette Nylander, into conversation to discuss the ways building an image is its own kind of architecture. From bold visual storytelling to the artistry behind celebrity beauty, this talk also opens up a decade of creative collaboration, culminating in Gutierrez's new book, Nothing Precious. I'll now welcome to the stage Lynette and Marcelo.
Thanks for coming. This gorgeous audience.
So ungraceful. Hi everyone. This is so nice. It feels like family.
Yeah, this is chill.
Hi. I'm Lynette. I'm the executive digital director of Harper's Bazaar. I'm a writer and a creative consultant. And I'm sure everyone in the audience knows who Marcelo is and what Marcelo does, but I do have a bio prepared. Well, Marcelo is an internationally recognized and award-winning makeup artist. Born in Colombia, now based in New York City, Marcelo continues to explore his artistic practice, taking on roles as a makeup artist, creative director, and consultant. Marcelo's work has been featured in publications including Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, D Republica, ID, Vogue Italia, Self-Service, W, and campaigns for Louis Vuitton, Chanel, MAC, and many, many more, and has worked with the likes of Troye Sivan, Lily Rose Depp, Emily Ratajkowski, Bella Hadid, Paloma Elsesser, Rosalia, Lourdes Leon, Takesha, and Madonna. And in 2023, Marcelo won the Best Artist of the Year at the Latin American Fashion Awards. We're gonna clap for them. And in 2024, Marcelo released Nothing Precious, marking his first publication as both creative director and makeup artist that I was lucky enough to help edit. And Nothing Precious is a photographic exploration of his creative journey in the past decade in New York City, and is a tribute to the collaborators, muses who have shaped Gutierrez's work, Marcelo's work. So I'm really excited to do this with you and talk about the connections between what you do as a makeup artist and kind of what New Ink are trying to talk about and interrogate in this Incubator program and all of the programming that they have going on. I want to start with makeup as, look, we're specifically on a design and architecture stage,
Right.
which doesn't seem like the most natural fit for you and your practice and what you do, but actually when you peel back the layers, it makes a lot of sense. Architecture in the framework of your face is paramount, and you are in a way, you're a painter, you're a sculptor, you are an architect in a different way. And have you ever naturally responded to kind of architecture as a medium?
I've never really had, oh, by the way, thanks everyone for coming.
Thanks, everyone.
I've never really had like a natural inclination towards architecture, but obviously design and how something can affect the space around it directly correlates to how beauty affects the people around it, and now just not in person but digitally. And so I think also like architecture, both beauty and architecture kind of work subliminally, whether it's a space, whether it's like a beautiful building that you just kind of walk by all the time and ignore, or like a gentrifying building in the middle of Bed-Stuy, and how that kind of contrasts and what message that sends. I think in those ways I started to connect the dots, and so it was really exciting to put this together and discuss how they kind of correlate and how each choice in the design process affects the space around it, the people interacting with it, and also its own longevity. Yeah.
I'm interested in how you choose. Talk about a bit about that process when you are thinking about makeup. Is it instinctual? Do you think about it? Is it intentional? Do you think often beforehand, or do you think this feels right in a moment?
So should I bring up the?
Yeah.
So how does this work? Oh yeah. Sorry.
There you go. And then you're just doing 3 that
Okay, perfect. Oh. No, not that one. The one before.
Go back.
Sorry.
The one before? Oh, sorry, here you go.
I don't know. Thank you. Oh, hey, kids.
There's children.
So I think so this is a cover that I just worked on for Dust magazine with the photographer Bella Newman. And I think to answer your question, a building usually has, I think like, let's say a building in the 1920s that was built in the 1920s style is very contemporary and probably cutting edge and very to the point, but maybe a building that references the 1920s built today has a different message or a different point of view, or if an Eastern European brutalist sculpture ends up in Bed-Stuy, why was that decision made? What's the purpose of it? And so for this context, Bella Newman, she basically we shot in a black box studio, and this wasn't a traditional photo shoot. What she did is she wrote an entire play where the actors were, not actors, the models were all performing. And let's see who can be louder, me or the kids. Shut up!
I dare you to go over there and say that.
Just the YMCA. And so I think in the process of this, with someone like Yasmin, who's typically seen as very traditionally beautiful and maybe not through the lens, maybe through a more modern lens, we wanted to approach her more as like a Caravaggio. And what does that mean on her? She's also someone who, I think with any element of architecture, there are all the elements that come together. There's the outside environment, there's the inside. And Bella, I always think about photographers painting with light. And so thinking about who was then the subject of a Caravaggio, it was usually European subjects. And I think when Bella and I were discussing this is what would it mean for Yasmin to be the subject of kind of a Caravaggio, and lighting her in a way that reflected something a bit more classical.
I think you can see that. Yeah. And then,
oh yeah.
what about this one?
This is another one where this is the cover of Perfect magazine with the iconic Linda Evangelista.
Who is I think a really important,
right,
is classically, she's one of the Holy Trinity, and she's classically known as having a pretty much perfect face, whatever perfect means, right? But her facial structure is revered as, one of the world's great beauties. So it's really interesting how you subverted it. I see the kind of shaved eyebrows. That is one of your signatures that you transferred over. But yeah, talk about that a bit more.
So I think this was a perfect example of like how maybe like Linda, maybe as like a monument of something that represents almost an entire industry, could be used and transported into an image where she's also subverting her own her own canon, really. And so in this photo shoot, really we were thinking about how could, at this time Linda was coming back to shooting, and I think
she had famously taken some time off.
So she was being reintroduced to the world, kind of in an unveiling of a new monument. And I think at the time everybody was shooting her in a really like pristine, precious way. And I think what we wanted to do was kind of bring back and reintroduce Linda to the modern audience as kind of the Linda that I really loved, which was one of the few models that like really was able to create character.
Yeah,
And
she was famously called the chameleon of
Yeah.
of the Naomi Christie and Linda Evangelista Trinity, because she was the one that could adapt to any look, and her face and her makeup could adapt to anything.
Totally.
I mean, Julianne Dees, famous hairstylist, dyed and cut her hair every single color under the sun, like blonde, black, red, everything, and she could carry it all, which is very rare as a model.
Exactly. And so I think in this moment, not only is she subverting her own canon, but then also to be able to put these slit brows on someone who's considered the like canon of beauty and fashion. And the slit brows are just like something that I grew up with my cousins and family. And for it to be seen on Linda is almost a way that beauty subliminally can send a message to kind of create a new standard, the way maybe putting a building in a neighborhood opens up the doors for
Conversation and access.
Access,
and that leads me really perfectly to my next question, which is about I mentioned in your bio you're a makeup artist, but you also respond to the title of creative director and a consultant, and really an artist at its kind of purest form. And I think that there's a movement in makeup artistry at the minute of makeup artists who kind of push this medium forward and center around identity and character, and aren't concerned with makeup in its traditional sense, making you look beautiful. Beautiful seems to be up for interpretation, and this idea of otherness seems to be really celebrated. And I smile, you're seeing me smile at that, because those were the images when I was younger I really responded to. I love a glamour puss, but I also love something that feels transgressive and weird and strange and challenging. And I want to talk to you why you think that there's a movement of artists, including yourself, who feel interested in doing that.
You know, I think it's funny that she's up there as well, because she was part of fashion at a time when fashion and image making was directed to a more homogenous group of people. And it seemed, sometimes people complain now about fashion and image making maybe being too political and too socially conscious. But it's also those people that weren't being necessarily ostracized by the industry at large. And so I think, I came up at a time in fashion when the idea of a supermodel was changing. Who could be a supermodel? For example, Paloma Elsesser.
Yeah, a good friend of both of ours
Yes.
who really challenged and continues to challenge who and what a supermodel looks like.
Exactly. So that came at a time when what the team could look like was changing. And so that was also during a time of social, political conversations. And I think inherently, because me and so many people were actually demanding for space in the industry, it became a political thing. It became a conscious decision to engage with the concept of identity and personhood and how fashion related to that. And it ends up being more powerful because there's so much weight in the way you dress and the way you present yourself and the rooms you're allowed in. And I think it's only become a better industry because of it, but it's still a long way to go.
Still a long way to go. And I think that though it is exciting to understand the possibilities, and I think that leads me perfectly into Nothing Precious, your book that you published in 2024, that we have right here. This is too high tech for me.
Yeah,
but we have it here. Oh, and we can, no, go, I think go back.
How do you focus?
And then we can flip it, and they can see.
Yeah, but it's not focused.
No. There you go.
There you go.
Can you see it now? On the screen? There you go.
Hey, kind of. How do you focus it?
There you go. It's upside down? No, this image is like that.
It's like that.
Is that okay?
Oh, I see what they're saying. I think we have to flip it facing us.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're millennials.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Is
that focused? Sorry, girls. While they do that,
Yeah, whilst they do that, we'll talk through the images in Nothing Precious, which we'll go through in a second, really act as, you know, your love letter to New York in the past decade and all of the characters you've met, but also kind of a social and cultural commentary. And there's messages and meaning behind each of the images. Should I flick it?
it's still out of focus.
Yeah.
Maybe can we go back to the slideshow? Sorry.
Yeah, do you have images of it
Yeah,
in
there's
there?
more images in the slideshow.
So just flip through, maybe?
But, you know where the rest of the images are? Anyway, so I made a book called Nothing Precious.
Yeah, and I'm gonna hold them up.
It's actually by the same photographer that shot this cover and by Brunel.
Yeah, Aidan Zamiri, who has really blown up in the last year with his work with Charlie XCX.
Yeah, so he shot most of the Brat era. And so, yeah, I think to what we were saying is that Nothing Precious is kind of like an amalgamation of my response to kind of identity. This is a good photo for, yeah. Can everyone in this
I think
audience?
they can see this.
Yeah. So this is a picture of Saul, who is kind of a viral Adonis, and that I've worked with for a really long time, and he has quite the following.
I like viral Adonis.
Yeah, viral
I want to
Adonis.
be known as that.
Yeah.
That's my Instagram bio from now on.
Viral Adonis. That's good. And so I've been working with him for a long time because he's quite the character. Like, once I was talking to him, and his favorite thing, his most precious item is red meat.
Wow.
The steaks that he buys. But even in that, there's this like insane underlayer of like sexual, or maybe it's the fact that I'm gay. And so whenever I get to get to work with him, it's really interesting because we do get to design a character that maybe in his day-to-day wouldn't be how he performs. But he allows me to kind of subvert his own identity and insert kind of some queer concepts onto him. Like, you know, this pink face and like liquid pouring down his face is very Lee Bowery, who, if you're not familiar, is just like a very iconic, trailblazing.
Oh my God, trailblazing LGBTQ plus icon who lived in London in the 80s and early 90s before passing tragically, but just really blew the world wide open with his character adoption,
And
makeup, and his looks.
Yeah, so I think for me, back to what the conversation we were saying, and kind of choosing to subvert space, gender, identity, you know, having Saul as like someone that's almost like the extreme example of like testosterone and malehood, and subverting him in something that can be very Lee Bowery, putting him in boxers but in a latex. The sock, he's wearing this like blue sock that this famous Colombian soccer player that I'm now spacing out on used to always wear, and his son would put daisies in his socks. And anyway, the design of this whole photo really speaks to that combination. What?
What about Omahai Ramota? Why don't you talk about
Oh yeah, so Omaira's an incredible example also. Hi, Sophia.
Hi, Sophia.
She's a good example of someone who, how would we describe Omaira? She's
a legendary model. You guys will know her from just.
She's an X-Men.
Yeah, she was. She is an actress and a model, but she's someone who kind of came onto the scene in the 90s.
Whose identity
and it was an unconventional beauty.
Yeah, and I think her kind of a trailblazer for identity being at the forefront of her marketing versus the other way around, because she was very androgynous, but not in a Kate Moss way, very much in like, I'm a boy kind of way. And so having her in the book to kind of push forward, it's kind of a 360 moment with where we are now. No, we're good. Should we talk about Madonna?
One second. And let's talk about, do you want to scroll? Is it going to work? Oh.
Sorry, guys. We had more images on here, but I don't know.
We don't know where they are. Well, anyway.
Oh, wait. Yeah.
There they are. Okay, well, let's talk about this one.
Sorry. Okay, so here we have Emma Corrin, the actress. Oh my God, my friends are laughing because I don't know how to work technology.
It's okay. It's technical challenges. We're all in this world kind of
Figuring it
moving.
out.
Yeah, figuring it out.
So this is another example of kind of where identity, design, and social politics come to play. Emma Corrin is an actor, who at the time really has like come out and whose identity has been a big element of how they take charge over their career. And at the time, this was part of that journey. And this is another example of how we wanted Emma's look to like celebrate them, but also subvert a standard of beauty and also maybe reference old queer culture. We blocked out their brows, created kind of like a semi-messy divine brow, put a beauty mark, which like immediately just like is a question of like, what is a beauty mark and why is it on someone? Who belongs with a beauty mark? You can just put it on. Putting a beauty mark on anyone, inherently, when you see that, you question the beauty of the person, but they're immediately asking for permission. Not even permission, really.
Yeah. Do you want to scroll?
Yes, right.
I thought it was important, if not only selfishly for my own asking, to talk about working with someone who's as influential and iconic a figure as Madonna, because I think it fits well with this topic of conversation about monuments and how they affect the people around them. And I know it's a little bit of an untraditional idea to think about Madonna as a monument, but I think in our world, at least in my world, which is like a black world, a world where I'm like, I'm not queer, but I feel very embraced and loved by the queer community, so I am.
Honorary queer.
And just culturally, it's Madonna, right? Like, few people are a mononym that you just know by one word. So how do you affect the beauty and identity of someone who is so kind of part of the fabric of culture?
Zeitgeist. Yeah, I think this is a good example of how beauty and architecture really come hand in hand. Back to the monument. A monument is like usually put up to send a message.
In ode of someone.
In ode of someone. It usually has a lot of symbolism. It carries, it's bigger than its own physical being. And I think for a moment like this, like the Met Gala, working with Madonna for this moment, she had
the 2025 Met Gala that was just a month ago.
Yeah, this just happened, and she hadn't been there for like 6 years or something.
Yeah.
And
2018.
Yeah, and so it was a big kind of comeback to that carpet. But I think in designing this moment for her, we were all wondering and thinking, what would be the best way for Madonna, the icon, the legend, the force of nature, to reintroduce herself, both as a legend and also someone who's constantly evolving. And in the last couple of years, she's been touring and did this insane tour where the looks were very different, and I think she wanted to come back. There's a strength in stripping it down. And I think when you think of someone as big and as large as Madonna, and they show up to something as large as the Met in just like a sexy, white, simple, butch suit, hair pulled back, simple makeup, but just very timeless. What we were saying was there's a strength in knowing when to pull back and to restrain. And for someone like her, being loud is no longer necessary because your very presence is noticed.
Yeah, you've kind of done it all.
You've done it all.
A couple more questions before we have to end. I want to talk about makeup identity and communities, because I think when you think about subcultures, it's not the most... Subcultures are tied together by the identity that they form, right? You think about hip-hoppers, punks, new romantics, acid rave, all of that kind of stuff. I'm very passionate about those sorts of subcultures. But you're also tied by what people listen to, where you go, but also how you look. And how do you feel about that idea of community around makeup today? Because we see it on a micro and macro level. On a micro level, we're seeing girls like running to Sephora. I'm sure I'm sure you guys all avoid Sephora because it's so crazy, but you see those 10-year-old girls running around sticking their fingers in blush. That's it. That's them forming community around makeup in a really kind of broad, like base level. And then you do see these people in New York, or I was talking to you yesterday when we were planning for this, or like Fecal Matter, who are an Instagram turned design duo out of Paris, who you should look at them, the extreme of kind of visual identity, and their base foundation of that is makeup. Mm-hmm. How is that moving forward?
You know, I think it's interesting, like you were saying. I think in the past, communities gravitated towards each other, maybe around a social movement, around music, like you were saying. And I think now, because beauty has exploded into such a massive industry, people are just coming together over the obsession of beauty, and then maybe finding through just the obsession of beauty, their own identity, and finding like-minded people, even on TikTok. And I just got on TikTok like last year, just seeing that like-minded looks start to follow each other, but they didn't know that they were actually in the same social, political agenda. And I think it's interesting, and I think now more than ever, beauty, like we were talking about inclusion, is making room for so many people. But I think it'll be interesting to see, as beauty becomes more and more commercialized, how long these identities last.
Yeah, because you're also at the mercy of whatever comes next and whatever elf makeup puts out into the universe or whatever. All right, one last question is the future, and how something like makeup artistry, which is inherently very analog, how does that move forward in a world where everything is becoming technologically co-opted? For good and for bad, by the way. I see both sides. Mm-hmm. You know, how does something that, you know, you can't have a machine sit with Madonna and do that makeup?
Hopefully not.
I hope so.
But, you know, I think this conversation shows up on set a lot. And, you know, you've already seen brands like H&M create these like digital copies of certain models, which I think is really interesting, and we'll see the effects of that, good or bad. But I think, you know, what I compare it to is, like, I imagine before photography, painters that would be sitting across a landscape or in front of a family, taking days, months to just paint this portrait or landscape, and then suddenly a photographer comes by and just like snaps it in one. Like, I'd be pissed. But people still paint, and people still take photos. I think, and painting really has become a bit more exclusive, and a bit more of a luxury to commit your life to. And I think that's what eventually will happen with makeup. It's a very old school, with your two hands and little brushes, just running around town, painting faces. And I think it'll become a bit more of a luxury expense. I don't think it'll be as accessible. I think it'll be a bit more like having the luxury of having a seamstress, you know. It's about tailoring your look as precisely as possible. And, you know, something like e-com will probably all be AI, which, that's fine. Those days are boring.
And it's, I think, also kind of fundamentally it's about craft and skill, which will always prevail. At least I'm a believer in it.
Yeah, and I think we'll all be challenged to evolve, just like how Instagram has challenged us all to become our own brands, whether we like it or not. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Marcelo.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, for talking this through.
Yeah? Great.